How did this whole situation with The Rock come about where he's apparently going to tell your story in a movie and actually play the role of you?
Um, just strange. So I'll wind the clock back a lot of years. So I lived in Santa Monica for 3 years. When I was living there, uh, The Rock started in MMA or started in pro wrestling in 1996. I started in MMA in 1997. So 2 years later, so 3 years later, I moved out to California. Um, the Rock was still living there, and I happened to run into him like 1999 when he trained at Gold's Gym, and we just had brief conversation, and that's it. And then my documentary comes out a couple years later. He had the opportunity to look at the documentary, and I ran into him again at Venice, and him and I had a longer conversation, and he said, "Hey, do you want to grab lunch?" And I said, "Yeah." And so we go and we have lunch and we exchange numbers and stuff like that. And then life happens. And, he goes on to do his pro wrestling stuff. And I go on to do my MMA stuff and all these different aspects of it. So a lot of time goes by. And so this is from what he told me and what his agent told me. So recently, last year, he says he wakes up in the middle of the night and he has an idea, and he goes down on his computer. He pulls up the Smashing Machine movie. He watches that. He watches all these other things he can find on the internet. He wakes his manager up at like 4 o'clock in the morning, and he goes, "I found my next project. I want to put this together where I'm going to do a movie about Mark Kerr." And so at that point, this is last year, so I'm not really on social media a ton. He tracks down Brad Schlater, his agent, tracks down my ex-wife, Dawn. Dawn gets a hold of me. I call out to Brad, and Brad shares that story with me. Hey, he was in the middle of the night, sleeping, gets up, says, "This is what I want to do." And so Brad Schlater goes about acquiring all the rights. So I had originally sold the movie rights, and I had sold some other rights that are associated with the movie to a production company, and it ends up being where an Israeli gentleman, ended up buying my life rights and my movie rights and some other rights. I didn't know there were so many rights to a documentary, and so The Rock buys them all. And then him and I talked right before he made the announcement at Madison Square Garden. And, he basically said, "Hey, when we had spoke, years back, I wanted to do a project like this. And I didn't have any juice. I didn't have any pull." He goes, "Now I have the ability, I have pull. I can get this done." And so he goes, "Just hang tight. I'm going to make some announcements on Instagram, and we're going to put this thing together, and it'll be fantastic. You're going to have a blast doing it, and we'll bring you on as a consultant, and we'll just put this together to make it fun, and it'll be something that I think that the public will enjoy." And so it's just kind of one of those weird things where, him watching the documentary years and years and years ago, and having that kind of planted in his mind, it just popped in his mind again. He's like, "Oh shit, I can get this done." And probably one of the coolest, I know everybody says this, but probably one of the most gracious, coolest dudes. I mean, he had said to me, he goes, "Hey, Mark, I just want you to know this is an honor for me to do this, for me to take this on and put everything I have behind it to make it the best possible production and movie that I can." And it's just something that I really think that I can do a great job with. And, everybody involved, I think, will be happy with the product, at the end of the day. So, then obviously COVID hits and all this stuff hits. So, things are still moving forward. I think once COVID kind of breaks loose, they're going to make an announcement for the writer and the director And once the writer and director, they'll have a distribution studio lined up for it. It's going to be fun moving forward. It's something that I didn't anticipate. I didn't, and part of what I've come to understand is that there's plenty other people in MMA that he could tell Conor McGregor's story, or he can tell, Mark Coleman's story, or Boss Rutan's story, or Kevin Randleman, or he can tell so many different stories of people. And he kind of looks at, what my life was, and it's the struggle that you go through. It's the different stuff that you go through as an individual. So it's really not about the wins, the losses, the championships, because there's been a ton of people that have won way more than I have and had a lot, more entertaining fights than I have. I think it comes down to him being able to tell a story that he believes will come across to as many people as, you deal with stuff. You have ups and you have downs. You have days where you get your dick knocked in the dirt, and you get back up and you do the best you can the next day. And, I think for whatever reason, a lot of that resonates with him. And, I think at this point, the success he has, I think he knows what resonates with the general public. And, he wouldn't take on something that he doesn't think that he can make the absolute best he possibly can. It's not his style. So I'm excited.
And I hope that one will benefit you financially as well. Did the Smashing Machine, I know it was a documentary. I assume you probably didn't make a fortune off of that one. No. And part of what Brad had said to me, and also what The Rock had said, just simply, without much detail, in part, him taking this on is to benefit you financially, is to make a difference in where you are in your life and where your life can be moving forward. So, I know that it is part of why he's doing it. I know that, it just seems lately everything he touches just seems to do really, really well. So, it's incredible.
Thank you for watching the Hannibal TV. Please like this video if you enjoyed it, and click the subscribe button to not miss any of our latest shoot interviews, match videos, or news